Good evening. Welcome to the Norfolk City Council meeting, December 16th, 2024. It's 5:30, so I'd like to call this meeting to order and inform the public of the location of the Open Meeting Acts posted in the council chamber and accessible to members of the public. This time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Greenquist.
Here.
Arns.
Here.
Webb.
Here.
McCarthy.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here. All right, special items. It'll be the swearing in of Jim Lange as Ward 2 council member.
This way. Okay, ready? Ready. Okay, I'll have you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jim Lange,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or for purpose of evasion,
or for purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the office of State Your Office
of the office of Ward 2 City Council Member
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear
And I do further swear
that I do not advocate,
that I do not advocate,
nor am I a member
nor am I a member
of any political party or organization
of any political party or organization
that advocates the overthrow
that advocates the overthrow
of the government of the United States
of the government of the United States
or of this state
or of this state
by force or violence.
by force or violence,
And that during such time
and that during such time
as I am in this position,
that I am in this position,
I will not advocate
I will not advocate
nor become a member
nor become a member
of any political party or organization
of any political party or organization
that advocates the overthrow
that advocates the overthrow
of the government of the United States
of the government of the United States
or of this state
or of this state
by force or violence.
by force or violence,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. All right, you may be seated. Now, roll call again. Could you roll call again?
All right, we will do roll call again, so roll call, please.
Greenquist.
Here.
Arns.
Here.
Webb.
Here.
McCarthy.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Lange.
Here,
Hildebrand.
Here. All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda and removing, or do I state that, right?
Yep.
Removing item 10 and 12 from the consent agenda.
So moved. I'll second.
All right, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Right, I need approval of the full agenda, adding 10 and 12 to the regular agenda.
Make a motion to approve the full agenda.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Now go to public hearing and related action. This time I need to open the hearing to receive a report on findings and suggestions from the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Review Committee as required by state statute section 182715. Randy, can I have some background on this, please?
Yes, Chairman. State statutes, as you mentioned, require a Citizens Advisory Review Committee for cities that have an LB 840 Economic Development Program. The citizens serving on the city's CARC are Cindy Morrow, Brandon Day, Aaron Otten, Jan Anspar, and Kathy Means. I serve as an ex officio non-voting member of the CARC. Statutes require the CARC to report to the City Council every 6 months at a hearing called for that purpose. The CARC's report is included in the agenda packet. I'll briefly review the report. The CARC reviewed the City's Council, or the LB 840 Economic Development Program financial statements from May 2024 through October 2024. There was $11,875 of interest received on outstanding loans during that period, $8.55 in the form of late property tax payments, $68.43 of interest earned. The cash balance was a little over $12,000 at the end of October. The requirements of the outstanding loans are met. 99% of the interest paid on those loans will be forgiven when the loan is refunded back to the borrower. The cash balance will be less than $260 after the interest is expected to be forgiven. The well has one of the two outstanding LB 840 loans. This is the Women's Empowering Lifeline that they got for the child care facility. They're required to create full-time equivalent jobs by June 1, 2025. They've created 7.7 full-time jobs as of the date of their report, and they need to create an additional 3.3 full-time equivalent positions by June 1, 2025. And then they have to retain those jobs for 2 years. If they don't meet these requirements, the $103,129 LB 840 loan becomes due June 1, 2028. The other LB 840 loan outstanding is Neighbor Works, and they submitted their second status report. They've established a $1.5 million Norfolk Rural Workforce Housing Fund. They received a certificate of occupancy for 10 apartment units in August. They anticipate receiving a certificate of occupancy for another 20 units before the end of the year, and this would meet their requirements to create at least 30 workforce housing units for their LB 840 loan to be forgiven. If they don't meet these requirements, their $200,000 LB 840 loan becomes due June 30th of 2026. The Citizens Advisory Review Committee found that the city's economic development program is operating in compliance with the budget and voter-approved economic development plan. Can't answer any questions.
Any discussion at this time? Any public discussion? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. I'd like to open public hearing to consideration amendment to section 27288 of the official city code to update fence requirements. Val, I bring that one to you.
Thank you. I will start this discussion with the staff memo, and I'll also bring up some pictures and graphics just to kind of help explain this. I think it might be easier for people to understand. So a city council subcommittee was held on October 21st to discuss the current fence code that's been in place since 1982. We have old code available to us to look at from 1962, 82, and then current. Since 1982, the fence regulations have been in place as they are. Fences were not in the 1962 code, so somewhere in those 20-year time frame, I'm assuming something started to happen in the city, that fences started to appear, and that the council at that time felt it necessary to start regulating how high fences could be and where they were on property. A comparison chart to the other first-class cities we compared to was presented, which included a total of 8 cities, including Norfolk. The main discussion of amending the fence code came from a couple complaints from citizens wanting to have a solid 6-foot fence going into the required yard on the corner side of a house out to what is essentially a property line, right-of-way line, back a sidewalk. It's essentially about the same things. Current Norfolk code allows a 4-foot solid fence in that required corner yard. Unless the fence is along the same plane of the house, then it can go up to 8-foot solid. Direction of the subcommittee was to prepare the amendment before you, which would permit a solid 6-foot fence starting at the front corner of the house. So this kind of helps show what is in real life. So it would be coming from the front corner of the house out to the side, 6-foot solid, and then going down the side. So you can see it's kind of at the back of the sidewalk, which is the right-of-way property line usually. And so following that, and then this is kind of coming from the backside going up towards the intersection then. So that is what in real life this code would, this proposed code would allow. And then also we do have something currently that shows a graphic to hand out to people when they are looking at fences. And so this is marked up from what we currently have to what the proposal would be. So here's the front corner of your house going 6 foot instead of 4. And then this would be 6 foot instead of 4. So if hopefully that picture helps. The comparison chart of cities has Norfolk and one other city having a maximum of the 4 foot in the required corner side yard. 2 cities allow a 6 to 8 foot solid fence in the required corner. And then 4 of the 8 allow a 6 foot open fence in the required corner side yard. Open for them means one city is 33% open, and then 3 of them were 50% open, meaning like the 50% open would be like a 4 foot or a 4-inch picket, a 4-inch gap, 4-inch picket, 4-inch gap, so you could still see through it with limitations of vegetation. The discussion at Planning Commission 2 weeks ago on December 3rd at the public hearing for this fence code amendment included potential site triangle revisions, which is not currently part of the amendment but was recommended for future discussion. Amending the code to be like the other 4 cities to allow the 6-foot fence, but it be 50% open and limit vegetation for safety concerns. It was discussed that a reason to amend the code, the proposed code before you, was to have an open fence, even though the 25-foot site triangle, which you can kind of see here, was free of the 6-foot solid fence in the proposed amendment, particularly at unmarked intersections, because there would potentially not be a lot of reaction time for vehicles traveling at the 25-mile-an-hour speed on local residential roads and coming to or from behind a solid 6-foot fence to slow or brake for another vehicle coming towards the intersection. So I just thought I would pass that conversation on, because you will see in the Planning Commission recommendation that it was a 1 to 5 vote, because they would prefer that it be an open fence as a proposed. So if you choose to do that, you could amend it if that's what you would like. If there's any questions, I could certainly help.
So for clarification, the the planning commission is in acceptance of moving this to a 6-foot along the back of the sidewalk and the corner of the house?
Only if it's open. It actually failed at Planning Commission as it's written, yes.
So it'd be like, when you say open, like a chain link fence, a wrought iron fence, something to that nature?
Or something similar to where it's 50% open, so you could still have your pickets. So not necessarily a completely open like chain link or wrought iron, you could still have like your picket and then an open space. So it's not just solid, so you could see something coming through there as a vehicle or a pedestrian, something solid behind there. And, yeah.
So that would be on what we're looking at, where you say amendment to 6-foot solid fence, that's what that is discussing, correct?
That is what is currently proposed
Would that be a
tonight.
6-foot solid or 6-foot, you can see through it?
Planning Commission did not care for the solid fence.
the solid, okay.
They would prefer, they understand the safety of, somebody being able to reach across a 4-foot fence and potentially take a child or a pet or something like that. So they understand the 6-foot safety factor that way, but they would prefer to see it open so that you could see it as you're driving for pedestrians and such.
But it will be out of the sight triangle and up to the setback of the home, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think this was initially brought up because what was in question was privacy fences, correct?
Yes, the two complaints were they wanted a solid 6-foot privacy fence, not an open fence, yes.
And Val, just for clarification, currently, we can allow this same fence that's in your photo at 4 foot, correct? We can have it at 4 foot and solid.
Correct, yes.
So what this is doing is just adding 2 foot for one, more privacy, to potentially keep a pet in. And I don't know if a line of sight at 4 foot versus 6 foot is going to make a difference on traffic or not, but it might give the homeowner more privacy or possibly more protection with the pets.
I guess that's your decision to make, yeah.
I have a feeling if we amend the code, it's gonna be right back in front of us in a couple years because the main push was for privacy. So I'm not sure if that's, I'm just throwing that out there, because this has been brought up to us. We've discussed this before, and I've had discussion with code officials about it before, but that's primarily the issue, is when you live along maybe an intersection, or just the fact when your kids are out playing, your dogs are playing. Some people have dogs that have no problem jumping over a 4-foot fence, so 6-foot fence they feel like would keep them in. And then the privacy part comes up into play when you have your children playing within that area, and they're nervous about people, obviously, like you said, reaching through or seeing the kids playing in that area. So that was the initial, I think, complaint. I think the Planning Commission is trying to find a compromise there, is what I'm assuming, right?
I believe that's what they were trying to do, that if you truly had safety concerns, then you could still have your 6-foot fence, but the 6-foot see-through with some open visibility would still allow the safety of the vehicular traffic and the pedestrians coming around the corner also. So, yeah, I would say that was their compromise.
Typical speed in these neighborhoods would be at 25 miles an hour, correct?
Yeah, that's your standard residential road.
So would that mean the line of sight is not correct? Because we have a 25-foot setback and a 25-foot setback, and we create a triangle for that line of sight. Isn't that given to prevent people, so you can see at those intersections?
I mean, when you think about it, 25 feet is essentially a car length. So you would have a car length in which to react.
But you also have from your property setback to the front of your curb, which is an additional usually around 14 foot.
About 10
So you've
or
got,
so.
you're gonna have 30 some.
I don't know if Steve can
39
speak to
foot
that
or so.
with the MTAP, and, because we kind of got into that a little bit at Planning Commission also.
That 25-foot corner is driven through the geometric design guide put out by the Association of Highway Transportation Officials. It is widely adopted across the United States for those corners as an acceptable site triangle, so.
Are we wanting to change the ordinance to bring this into compliance then? This picture
The
that you
first
have?
photo you have is out of compliance.
Yeah, the picture that I have is something that is not legally there today. I mean, so it would put it into compliance, but what brought it about was somebody wanting to do exactly that as a new fence, essentially.
So this would allow this to be in compliance then?
Yes.
Well, what happens is people call to have their fences replaced, and then they go to put their new fence in, they can't put it back the way it was. It's essentially, right, because they want to go back to the 6 foot, but now we want to allow that. So then they got to drop it to a 4 foot, or they go chain link fence or something of that nature.
The one that you're talking about that was one of the complaints was that wasn't a legally conforming fence when it went up
When it was put in,
either.
okay, yeah.
And so it was just, we happened to be in the area doing something else, saw that and went, oh, let's get it in compliance the way it is. So they could have put it down to 4, or they could have followed the plane of the house if they continued to want a 6-foot fence. And so that's why we're here today.
So with the instance you're talking about, this code would bring that into compliance, that fence that's being reconstructed.
Yes, if this passes.
With the amendment to the 6 foot solid fence, though.
With the amendment, yes.
Right.
So there's chain link there.
So Val, just another question on this. So on the back side of this property, if we get into an alley, is there any type of line of sight or restriction on this
No.
fence? Can it
There-
go all the way to the alley?
Yes, so it would look exactly like this. And I don't know that they even went all the way out to what the alley right-of-way is, but it would be something similar to that. So yeah, you would have your solid 6 foot all the way back to the back property line, which would be an allowance.
Any further discussion? No. Any discussion from the public on this? All right, planning and zoning report.
The Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on December 3rd, 2024, to consider an amendment to Section 27-288 of the official city code to update fence requirements. The Planning Commission denied the motion to recommend approval of the amendment with a 1-5 vote.
All right, we'll close the hearing. I need a motion to consideration of ordinance number 5910, approving an amendment to section 27288 of the official city code to update fence requirements.
I'll offer for consideration ordinance number 5910.
Second.
Discussion?
So the consideration is for a private fence, a closed fence? No, it's for the open fence, 6 foot open or 6 foot private? I guess we're talking about solid or just 6? I mean,
Currently, what is before you is a 6-foot solid fence. Yes.
Okay, so we're considering making it to a 6 foot open, solid, oh, okay. All right,
We currently allow a 4-foot solid fence. We're going
Right.
to potentially allow a 6-foot solid fence.
okay. Just want to make sure.
So if
this doesn't pass and we want the open fence, does it come back to us then, or how does that work? If we agree with the planning commission?
If that's your recommendation to either amend the code to make it open, you could, I suppose, amend the code to do that. Or if this fails and you wanted to then bring it back for a 6-foot open, then we could bring something else back at that point.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any discussion from the public? Hearing none, short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 27-288 of the official city code to update fence requirements, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, McCarthy, Granquist, Arns, Lengy, Webb, Hildebrand, Beckman. Voting in opposition, Jensen. Ordinance number 5910 carries on first reading.
Seeing little opposition to this, I would recommend we suspend the rules and waive on the second and third readings.
Second.
Right, we can have discussion. Any discussion on this?
No.
All right, seeing none, please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, McCarthy, Granquist, Arns, Lengy, Webb, Hildebrand, Beckman. Voting in opposition, Jensen. Ordinance number 5910 carries on second and third.
All right, this brings us to our regular agenda. First item on the regular agenda will be,
Number 10.
oh, yeah,
Number 10.
yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and go to 10.
Oh,
So I-
So we just need a, yep, so we just need a motion to open. Yep.
Is it a motion in consideration of approval of the subcommittee appointments by Council President Frank Ahrens as follows?
If you want to.
Public Service, Traffic and Infrastructure, Corey Hildebrand, Frank Ahrens, Justin Webb, Jim Lange.
can I interject here before you actually formalize this?
We just need a motion and a second to open this.
Yeah, we just need a motion, a second to open this.
So I'll make a motion to open the discussion on the subcommittee.
Second.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so before you read that list, I would like to make a couple of changes on the public health and safety emergency services. I'd like to remove Justin Webb and put Corey Hildebrand. And on the community and economic development, I would remove Corey Hildebrand and put Justin Webb. And then the final decision on the Policies and Procedures Subcommittee, removed Jeff Jensen on that. And at some point, Jeff will find another subcommittee to put you on so we can have you on too.
How soon will that take place, Frank? How often do these committees meet? I mean, I think it should be that he's available when they first have their meeting, so how soon will you make that decision?
I'll make it prior, well, we'd probably have to get approval again at the next council meeting. Yeah, probably, holidays are probably not going to have a lot of subcommittees, I wouldn't think. So I would think we'd probably have it by the next scheduled council meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So what we need is a motion to approve the amendment, and then we'll vote on the final subcommittees.
So I just need a motion now.
Yep. So
Yeah, I
we'll
just need
need-
a, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yep, so we'll just need a motion and a second to go ahead and approve the amendment that Frank Arns just listed.
I'll make a motion to accept what Councilman Arns had said with the changes that were also mentioned.
I'll second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Right now, we're going to make a motion to consider the actual item with the amendment, the approval of subcommittee appointments by Council President Frank Aaron's as follows: Public Service, Traffic and Infrastructure, Corey Hildebrand; Frank Aaron's, Justin Webb, Jim Langy; Public Health and Safety, Emergency Service, Corey Grandquist, Sue Beckman, Andrew McCarthy, and Corey Hildebrand. Community and Economic Development, Corey Grandquist, Justin Webb, Frank Aaron's, and Andrew McCarthy. Cultural and Recreation, Jim Langy, Justin Webb, and Jeff Jensen. Policies and Procedures, Andrew McCarthy, Corey Hildebrand, and Sue Beckman.
So please vote.
Please vote.
Just need one more. Just need one more. Just need one more. We're missing another one. All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, brings us on to item number 12. Need a motion in consideration of approval to ratify the calling of a special city council meeting on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024 at 5:30 PM to fill the city council seat vacancy in Ward 2 as a result of the election of Shane Clausen to mayor.
Second.
All right, a motion a second. Any discussion?
Yep. So what this is this is a formality that whenever there is a calling of a special city council meeting, we prefer everything that's been done in the past reflects that this goes on a city council agenda, whether before or after as a ratification. So this is what that formality is. Attached to the agenda packet is a memo signed by Mayor Clausen approving the calling of the special city council meeting.
Any discussion on this, please? Any discussion from the public?
Jim McKenzie. So just a point of clarification. So there's no deficiency in what we did or any process. It's just a ratification of something that we already did. I mean, do we always do that? We always ratify a special meeting?
From my understanding, yes, whenever there is, from my knowledge, whenever there is a calling of a special city council meeting, it either goes prior to the actual memo gets attached on the agenda prior to this calling of a special city council meeting. In this instance, the previous meeting had already passed, so that's why we are ratifying this.
Okay, so there's no deficiency in the process at all that we're ratifying to correct that?
I can speak to that. There's no deficiency that we're trying to correct here.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other discussion? All right, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, on to the regular agenda. On an item number 19, consideration of ordinance number 5906, enacting Chapter 14, Article X, Division 3 of the Official City Code in order to prohibit camping and the storage of personal property in parks and on other public property. This is an ordinance passed on the first reading at the November 18, 2024 City Council meeting and tabled at the December 2nd, 2024 meeting.
I'll offer for consideration of ordinance number 5906.
Second?
So this needs to be removed from the table first. There needs to be a motion
Yep,
to remove
sorry.
this from the table.
I'll make a motion to remove ordinance number 5906 from the table.
Second?
Thank you.
All right, please vote.
Is it working? So I just want to note for the public that there is a lag on the software tonight. So what you are seeing is lagging by several seconds. I apologize.
Check your tablets. We're missing a couple votes.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right. Now we will look for a motion for ordinance number 5906.
I'll offer for consideration of ordinance number 59.
Second.
Yep. Yes, please.
Sure, Mayor and Council. I can read a memo from our city attorney, who is unable to be here tonight, but she did provide a memo explaining some of the background for next steps on this ordinance. So I'll read that from her. As you're aware, this ordinance was introduced on November 18th, 2024, following staff and citizen concerns over public safety and sanitation issues related to the steady growth and homelessness within our community. The goal of the ordinance was never to criminalize the status of being homeless, but rather to ensure that our parks, public buildings, and other public spaces were safe and clean places for the citizenry as a whole to utilize. During the November 18th conversation on the ordinance, and since that time, several elected officials, city and county, as well as Police Chief Brian Ty, Sheriff Todd Volk, and myself have been working with area organizations to ensure that our unhoused citizens are kept safe during the upcoming cold months. To that end, some of these organizations are working on a private warming shelter to provide unhoused individuals a safe and warm place to stay temporarily during the winter. While they work to accomplish this task, and because another community meeting is scheduled, which would have been last Friday, of that group, staff would request that this item to be tabled again. I was present at that meeting with various community partners, and I'll tell you that I think our direction now is to table this. Again, I believe Kylie was at kind of our direction to table it again until we can have a chance to talk more about this.
That is correct.
Okay. So I would say to give us some time, if we can table this to the first meeting in February, and that will give at least one or two more meetings after this to see where we're at, as we have more information to bring forward with some of the organizations that we're working with on this.
Can I ask, is it worth tabling, or is it worth just letting it go down and bring it back as a new ordinance, if it's going to be 2 months anyway?
That is an option for you guys as well, if you would like to do that. We can bring it back again, once those discussions have
It
concluded.
seems like the discussion's going to change this ordinance anyway, so what would be in front of us is probably going to be amended. So it seems like it would be worthwhile to let this pass and bring forward a different ordinance when it is cleaned up, I guess, if that's the right word.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so clarify your statement there.
Yeah, basically, it's in front of us right now, so if we would vote no on this, it obviously fails. And if there is something to come forward with whatever comes out in February, it would come in front of us as a new ordinance. If we would vote on it as it is, then obviously it stays in place, which is not the recommendation of what we'd want. So instead of tabling, we could essentially vote this down, so a different ordinance would be brought in front of us. Did I speak right, Kylie?
Yes. Yes.
I don't want your job, but I was just guessing.
Trust me, she has to tell me what to do. the
Some
whole
days I
time
wonder
here.
about this one.
All right, any further discussion?
Corey, I think that's the right way to do it, is bring this back as a new ordinance instead of having revision after revision to what we have in front of us.
It does make it cleaner that way for everybody to understand.
Correct.
Anybody, any members of the public have any discussion with this? All right, seeing none, please vote.
Short title.
Short title, I'm sorry. Short title?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to enact Chapter 14, Article 10, Division 3 of the official city code in order to prohibit camping and the storage of personal property in parks and on other public property, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right, now please vote.
All council members present voting in opposition, ordinance number 5906 fails.
All right, that moves us to item number 20, consideration of ordinance number 5909 to amend section 20-26 of the official city code to amend procedures related to filling mayor and/or city council vacancies. This ordinance passed on first reading at the December 2nd, 2024 city council meeting.
All are for consideration of ordinance 5909.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yes, I'm still not happy with the way the ordinance has changed, because in the ordinance itself, under number 4, that would be under B, that is stricken where the mayor and city council shall be entitled to personally interview any and all interested persons who have applied to fill said vacancy prior to the time of the special meeting required to be called under subsection number 5 below. And reading through the new number 4, there's nothing about the council in there at all. All it states is that the mayor will bring a name forward and we vote on that. So
Okay.
I guess I would like to have that somehow amended and not put in.
Right, I agree with you.
So you can treat this kind of similar as the last ordinance. If you wanted to, you could vote this down
Yeah.
and then bring forward a whole new proposed ordinance after discussions with mayor and council.
I think that would be the best.
I think that'd be the way to go.
That's what I'd
Yeah,
suggest too.
and then we can have further discussion and bring this back with
That'd be the
a
best.
better
option.
policy, so. Okay. Any discussion from the public on this? I'm sorry, can you hear me? Any discussion from the public on this? All right, seeing none, short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 2-26 of the official city code to amend procedures related to filling mayor and/or city councilman vacancies, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right, please vote.
All council members present voting in opposition, ordinance number 5909 fails.
All right, on item number 21, we need a motion and consideration of approval of change order number 1F with Rutchins Construction for the water extension at 25th and Sheridan project, resulting in a net increase of $1,530. And
I'll offer for consideration approval of change order number 1F with Rutchins Construction.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. We're going to discussion. Chad, would you kind of lead us on this?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. What we got in front of you here is change order 1F for Rutchins Construction. A little history on this: on November 4th, 2024, the Mayor and City Council awarded a $38,240 contract with Rutchins for a water main extension at 25th and Sheridan. This change order set before you right here is to balance out the final cost of material that was used on this project. So the final contracted amount is $39,770. Any questions?
So this is just clarifying the final quantities of,
That is correct.
okay,
A couple of fittings we had to add to the project.
sure.
So has the price changed at all since the original bid came in, or is there anything to do with
Yeah,
that?
the change order went up that $1,500.
Because
So
of-
we had to add 2 more 45-degree couplers is what we had to add to the project.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Any more discussion? Any discussion, public input? All right, seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, that moves us on to item number 22, consideration of approval of change order number 3F with A&R Construction for the West Michigan Avenue and 8th Street reconstruction project, resulting in a net increase of $6,700.
I'll offer for consideration approval of change order number 3F with A&R Construction.
Second.
Seeing we have a motion and a second, we need some discussion, please, and Steve, I'll leave that for you.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, on change orders, the designation F would indicate that this is the final change order. What it's doing, it's modifying, it's the last modification to the contract that makes the contract equal to the final cost of the cost of the project. This here is change order 3F with Rutchins on the Michigan Avenue and 8th Street project for $6,700. Original contract was $2,928,366.53. With this $6,700 final change order, the total cost of construction will be modified to $3,093,533.45. So this modifies our contract with Rutchins. The work that's being paid for here is work that was outside of the original contract. There's probably three items there, generally dealing with final grading, final erosion control, some bed amendments, bed reconstruction on a couple chunks of private property. So I'd be happy to answer any questions around those if you have any. Again, this modifies the contract to the final as constructed cost.
This still falls within the engineer's estimate from the original
Yes.
bid, correct? Bid, correct, okay.
Any other discussion? Public input? All right, seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, brings us on to item number 23, motion to consider of approval of amendment number 2 to the engineering service contract with Black & Veatch Corporation for engineering services during construction of the 2 MG treated water storage tank project for the amount not to exceed $295,106.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval of amendment number 2.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. That leads to discussion. We'll ask Chad to come forward and talk on this, please.
Thanks again, Mayor and Council. What we got in front of the contract here for you is the construction administration service contract for the 2 million gallon reservoir that's being built out there at the wastewater treatment plant. So a little history on this contract. On January 17th, 2023, the Mayor and City Council approved a $730,407 contract to design the wastewater treatment plant along with the new collector well 14. On August 19th, 2024, Mayor and City Council approved amendment number 1 of the original contract for $34,557, and that was to break out the contracts. So we separated the 2 million gallon tank out of the original 4-project bid package. So what we got in front of you today is amendment number 2, which is to provide the construction administration support services and field services for the construction of this tank. This contract's not to exceed $295,106. We did have an original proposal for this. We got it early part of the summer, and the original one came out at $701,000. As you guys know, we have Dennis Watts still on staff working part-time. So this is one of the reasons why we kept Dennis Watts around for the last couple of years, was for these projects. Using Dennis's services and along with mine, we were able to bring that contract down to what you see today, saving a little over $400,000. Any questions?
And the reason you were able to save that $400,000 is because you were able to eliminate some engineering fees, is that correct?
Yeah, so basically with Dennis here on site, we didn't have to have an on-site consultant to be out there to see the daily progression on the tank, doing the daily reports. acting as that person in between the owner, the engineer, and the contractor, Dennis can fill those duties along with myself.
Thank you for taking ownership of that and saving the city money.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Any further discussion? Any public input? Right, seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right. Brings us to item number 24 of the agenda. Consideration of resolution number 2024-80 approving a sidewalk waiver request by PAL Properties or PAL Properties LLC on the property located at 1906 West Omaha Avenue.
All over consideration of resolution 2024-81, oh, that's the wrong one, sorry. Of the 2024-80 resolution number.
Second.
I think.
So we have motion second for resolution number 2024-80. Val, would you like to speak on this?
Yes, thank you. So I have the 1906 West Omaha highlighted up here on the screen so you kind of see where it is. Volcraft is to the south. This is Dairy Queen over here, and across the street, down the way, is the new Black Hills Energy. There is a new building right here that is a combination office and along with some storage units off to the side of it. And so it is time for the certificate of occupancy, and the sidewalk is something that comes along with the building permit. And so the request tonight is to get a sidewalk waiver to not put in the sidewalk at this time. And it would be a 5-foot sidewalk, that's code. At Planning Commission, there was discussion, because you can kind of see here that it is a trail coming along the side of Dairy Queen that is 8 foot. And so, Steve, do you want to kind of explain your thought process on timing?
Yeah, so this segment down here is part of our master plan trail within the community. It comes around there on Omaha Avenue, as Omaha Avenue peels off at 275, but that would extend, currently it extends over to 20th and then goes up 20th. I can't remember if that ultimately extends all the way out towards 37th. It's very possible it does. What I would like to do is, with the redevelopment that's occurred along here, is go ahead and just put this into a sidewalk district, and then we would design the trail and get that trail extended over to 20th, and then wrap that around the church and start bringing that back up north. There's some other development going on in this corridor as well. There are some available lots in there still that are always under consideration. We have folks knocking on the door, looking at different things there all the time. Metalman's currently extending a street through between Omaha Avenue and up behind the Ford dealership there. There we go, up behind Walmart, I guess. So there's gonna be some more development that'll drive up in that area. So I think, to me, it just makes sense that with that being part of our trail segment, that we wrap that into a district as we go into the budget sessions here in the spring. We'll put some numbers on that and get that into our budget presentations for the next cycle.
And just to
And
let you
I would probably prioritize that. I know we've done this in the past. I know, we're still waiting for some of that to come to fruition, but I think based on where this is and what it's connecting, that this would be a priority segment for us.
And just to let you know, the applicant is here if you have questions, but what is before you tonight is kind of our standard sidewalk waiver, that it's a temporary sidewalk waiver, and that the council reserves the right to request it to be put in at any time. So if you have any questions for us or the applicant, they are here.
I guess the only question I have is, Steve, you said trail, no, you're talking a wider walk there then, than 5
So
foot?
it would be, I would most likely be an 8 foot, our standard, kind of our 8 foot trail.
The only question in
and
that
that-
area was industrial, is it all, what's the zoning there? Is that
the
the
mo-
ideal place for a trail?
I think for the most part, the north side is commercial, except for, there's this one leftover house here that's still ag, and then there's industrial on the south side. I believe you don't go into industrial zoning until you cross over into, like Black Hills Energy and the Door place and the church. So once you cross, what is that, 23rd, 22nd? It's industrial over here and on the south, and then this whole thing is commercial up in here.
We could certainly, it's been about 5 years since we had that master plan in front of the public, but we can certainly bring that back in front of the public as part of our, maybe it's either through the Parks Department or maybe through both Parks Department and part of our 1 and 6 year street plan. We'll be having those conversations March, April, so we can certainly bring that back for some, public conversation around that master trail system. It was a large public process back in 2019, 2020. There was a community survey that was pushed out online, received really good feedback, and again, we can bring all that forward for some additional communication and education and see if there needs to be modification.
All right.
This probably has little to do with the waiver in front of us, but just a question. If we waive their rights to a sidewalk and then we decide to put it in a trail, is the city fully responsible for the building of that trail? Or would the people who were given temporary sidewalk waivers also be responsible for that in lieu of sidewalk?
They would be responsible for 5 feet of that 8 foot trail. One of the benefits, to having a trail either in front of your residence or in front of your business is we do remove the snow on that. We are responsible for some of the maintenance as well. It also allows them, when we structure that into a district, that gives them 10 to 15 years. I don't know, I can't remember what we're doing districts on right now for sidewalk, but Randy, head nod, are we doing, is it 7 year on sidewalk and trail or 10 or?
I believe 7 years what we last did, but
Okay, so it puts that into a 7 year sidewalk district and they'd have 7 years to pay that off versus consuming that cost all up front.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Val. So your standard waiver language, does that indicate that if an adjacent property owner does put in their sidewalk, then they would be required to put it in at that time?
Yeah, so the waiver's in effect until sidewalks are installed in the abutting area, or if they are ordered in. So yes, if somebody next door puts it in, then it kicks it in also, yes.
Any more discussion? Public input?
Hi, I'm Kim Davis, and I'm sitting here thinking, wasn't it like 2 months ago that the council voted on North 25th? Excuse me, there was a contractor here who wanted a waiver on the sidewalk or on the trail because if they put it in, they were going to have to take it back out, and that was denied. What's the difference between that and this?
Sure, good point. Steve, you want to address that? I think she's talking about Steve, or Granville, yeah, the Granville project.
I don't think there is. It's kind of the same thing. We foresee as a function of the 25th Street reconstruction project that there would be a trail segment going all the way up from Benjamin Avenue on one side or the other there of that 25th Street segment. And so his his request, he was actually requesting waiver, just to, so that when we do our project and we regrade all that, you're not having to take that out. His desire was not to have to put it in so that it would then be taken out. The waiver requests coming along this corridor are simply requesting to waive it because they don't think it's ever going to be needed.
If I remember right, Steve, Granville put in an 8-foot sidewalk, which their city was responsible for a portion of that, and we're supposed to reimburse them for that sidewalk, correct?
That is correct. So as the homeowners on Sheridan build, and Ramekers is the builder in that area, he will build out the 8-foot trail for our trail system, yes. And he will not be, we are not reimbursing him for any of that cost.
Does that answer your question? Or do you have?
I guess. I just, when that was discussed, I was just like, why would you make them put it in only to tear it back out? I mean, that's why it has stuck with me.
Right. Yeah,
What's that?
they did not have to put it in.
Yeah, they did not
We
have to
did
put
give
it
them a
in.
waiver on that.
I thought you guys voted it down.
No, we voted the waiver in, yeah, we voted the waiver in. So we'll put that sidewalk in when we reconstruct 25th.
Okay,
We
all right,
did-
thank you.
We
Thank
did
you.
table it for a subcommittee meeting, though.
Right, any more input on this? Seeing none, planning and zoning report, please.
On December 3rd, 2024, the Norfolk Planning Commission reviewed the waiver of subdivision requirements submitted by PAL Properties LLC. The waiver of minimum subdivision sidewalk requirements is requested from those set out in Chapter 23-42 of the City Code of Norfolk on property addressed as 1906 West Omaha Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the sidewalk waiver request with a 5-1 vote.
All right, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, resolution number 2024-80 is adopted.
Okay, on to item number 25, resolution, consideration of resolution number 2024-81 to support Madison County in their raised planning grant application. And I will ask Steve to comment on this after we get up.
I'll make a motion for consideration of resolution number 2024-81.
Second?
Okay, now we've got a motion, a second. So, Steve?
Mayor and council, this is a rinse and repeat item. We had submitted a very similar letter, if not the exact same letter or resolution to the county last year when they were applying for a raised grant for this exact project. This would be the extension of the industrial loop up here at North Highway 81. It would be the west extension of that industrial loop. It is a sort of a partnership between the city, Madison County, and Pierce County. The grant did not receive merit last year in the process. We were encouraged to reapply, and so we are again kind of rinsing and repeating here this resolution so that the county can submit again for a raised grant for that project. And this is a planning grant submittal for the raised grant opportunity. If they're awarded, then we would start planning for that. This would bring funds to the table to start planning for that extension. And I do think, unless they've popped out, I saw Eric Stinson here a little bit ago. Looks like they might have left. So, any questions? I'd be glad to answer those. These grants, I think with this, the county, I believe the grants are due mid to late January this year.
Okay. Any discussion? Public input? Seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, resolution number 2024-81 is adopted.
All right, I need, on to item number 26. Need a motion to consideration of an agreement between the city of Norfolk and Don Miller for Miller's retirement of his position as police chief.
Your Honor, I will be abstaining from this vote.
I'll offer for consideration an agreement between the city of Norfolk and Don Miller.
Second.
Right, discussion on this. We'll ask Andy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and members of the community tonight. I do have something that we prepared to read tonight for the public. This applies to the following 3 items and agreements that we have on the agenda, so bear with me while I read this. Good evening and thank you for being here and for your continued engagement in the Norfolk community. Tonight, the City Council will vote on settlement agreements with 3 members of the Norfolk Police Division. Because these proposed settlement agreements involve confidential information regarding both personnel issues and police department operations, there are limits on what the council is able to share with you. I therefore want to ensure that you are informed about the reasoning behind how the city reached a potential resolution of this matter. By way of background, the officers who are the subject of these agreements were placed on administrative leave in August while outside legal counsel conducted a thorough investigation of the work environment in the department. Throughout this time, the city has worked closely with outside legal counsel to ensure compliance with applicable laws and procedures while navigating this complex process. Importantly, this investigation occurred against the backdrop of the Civil Service Act, a state law that prohibits Norfolk from taking adverse action against certain public employees without first abiding by a rigorous legal procedure. Part of that procedure involves a public trial, and any potential settlement agreement would allow the city to avoid enduring very difficult and costly litigation that could stretch on for many months or beyond. Placing high-ranking officers on administrative leave is a significant decision and one that the city did not make lightly. That decision and the process that followed has understandably garnered significant attention and discussion within our city. I thank the citizens of Norfolk for that engagement. I also recognize the desire for transparency that many of you have advocated for during this process. Accountability and transparency are essential to our governance. But in this instance, due to the confidential nature of these sensitive personnel matters, there are strict limitations on what I and the members of the council can share publicly. These restrictions are not meant to conceal the truth, but instead to protect the rights and privacy of all parties involved, maintain the integrity of the legal process, and ensure that the city adheres to strict legal and ethical standards. We recognize that the lack of detailed information may cause frustration. And while we strive to honor our commitment to transparency, we ultimately must uphold the legal boundaries inherent in sensitive personnel matters. What I can say is this: since August, the city has faced a deeply complex legal matter with many moving parts and an uncertain outcome. By definition, settlement agreements involve difficult choices and compromise, and this instance is no different. Rest assured that the city has engaged in many hours of careful and thoughtful deliberation and have been guided by outside legal counsel and expert advice. As the city deliberated over this process, it was mindful of both protecting the men and women in the police division and protecting the city from prolonged and costly litigation. To say that our police division has been through a lot over the course of the last 4 months is an understatement. That the division has maintained continuity of operations is a tribute to the talented and committed officers in our force. But the reality is that since 2019, the department has endured the exit of 19 officers from a sworn staff of nearly 40, a fact that has never been far from my mind as we've tried to navigate this extremely difficult process. What I want to emphasize tonight is that the city's overarching priority is to strengthen the Norfolk Police Division, recruit the men and women needed to reach the full staff, and move ahead with a strong foundation for a bright future. I want to emphasize that citizen voices and input are essential to our work. While we may not always be able to share every detail, the council is elected to exercise wise judgment and serve the best interests of the city. We've been guided by that directive every step of the way throughout this process. Thank you for your understanding and holding us accountable to the high standards that the city expects and deserves.
Your Honor, I would also like to read a statement that I prepared here today. Fellow councilpersons and citizens of Norfolk, as you are aware, I was appointed December 11th and sworn in this evening. I've been aware of the ongoing employment issue, as many in the public have, since the original and subsequent news release. I have been following, but have not been privy to any information presented at any executive sessions. Thus, I reviewed the agenda with interest December 13th, 2024, as I believe other citizens did. Since Saturday, I have been contacted with differing views. Both sides present merit. I've also had the opportunity to have a lengthy conversation today with Barrett Holman, who is the legal counsel. The complexity and need for confidentiality of these three settlements, if approved, was amplified. Many have expressed understanding if I were to abstain. This thought has been in the forefront of my mind since December 13th of this year. What I hold to and will continue to hold to is my obligation to the citizens to be as informed as possible, trust in those who are retained to act in the best interests of the city, and finally, to vote in the best interests of the city. That being stated, I want to be clear that I will not be abstaining from voting on items 26, 27, or 28. Thank you.
Any further discussion? This time I'd like to ask for some public input. And as you come up, just state your name and fill out the paperwork and then.
Annette Lohman. Thank you, Mayor and council members. I am here to show my support for the officers that have been put on leave. I have seen firsthand the emotional, physical, and mental stress these men and families are going through, and I would not wish this on anyone. Whether you like them or not, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. It's been horrible. From the beginning, the city government had their minds made up without ever giving the officers a chance to give their side of the story. They were presumed guilty on day one. Andy made it clear they were not welcome back. Jessica and a city council member discussed how it will happen. It takes time. It's a process. And Mr. Moaning, possibly a year or two ago, had already said that he wanted new leadership at the police department. And these conversations were overheard by people that shared them with me, and I find these people credible. So I'm not sure who started this revenge tour. In this so-called investigation that was done, how did they decide who to talk with? And of those interviewed, did anyone try and coerce others to jump on board? I have talked to 10 plus people who have worked with these officers in some capacity. Dispatch, officers, people they have either trained or they have trained with on police matters. Only 2 of them were interviewed and not in person. Everything was done over Zoom. And of the people I talked to, half of them were women. Accusations of harassment were involved. I would definitely think more of these women would have been interviewed. Were promises made to those willing to provide information that fit the city's narrative, that their names would not be disclosed? If the officers had the money that it takes to keep going and to take this to civil board, would the accusers' names have to come out? And would they get a fair trial at that point? Paying out this amount of money appears to be way less than getting sued for unlawful termination or defamation of character, so I hope it happens. You walk a week in their shoes and see what they deal with and the quick decisions they possibly have to make. The ultimate sacrifice is what? I did a ride-along one night. I guess I'm wondering if our city government has. It's an eye-opener. This job is not always filled with rainbows and butterflies, and the standards to become a police officer is high, and the process they go through is not for everyone. Tough decisions have to be made. And I'm wondering if the person or persons that had these complaints, did they try and communicate these with their superiors so the problem could be solved? These men and women go to work carrying a weapon, and if they can't talk to the people that are above them, whoa. Hate to see you go out and patrol our streets because it's bad. I rode along. Were any of these three men ever written up, given a warning, put on leave, ever offered trainings if they needed them to become better professionally or personally? They haven't always been chief, captain, and lieutenant. Who promoted them if they weren't qualified? And if we were trying to clean house, maybe a couple more need to go, especially the one who had inappropriate relationship at work and possible criminal activity. We all have skeletons in our closet. Are we looking for quantity here or quality? This town is not that big, and of course everyone is talking, as you guys have said, it's good, it's bad, it's ugly. There's he said, she said. Allegations have been from anywhere from 2 years ago to 15. Now come on, do we really know what was exactly said and who said it? I have a brother-in-law that works in city government, and he's followed this the best that he can with the information he can be given, and he's questioning, has the right protocol been followed? Also have a nephew and a friend with the Omaha PD, and if you have a complaint, it has to be filed within 100 days or it's null or void. I don't know what ours is here. Honor, protect, serve, and being committed to this community describes many officers at Norfolk PD, along with the three that we're discussing tonight. The blood, sweat, and tears, along with thousands of good things that they have done for our community. And for this, if officers think they can run to HR anytime they don't agree with their superior, and Jessica allows this to happen, she has just undermined the chain of command. And are things really better there? Well, some of the comments I've heard, we just go to work, we trust no one, because who's next? I just do my job, I get in my car and I go home. Everyone's crabby right now, and does anyone have my back? You cannot create chaos in the lives of others and expect peace to come to yours. I was told by City Council that the decision was made by HR, City Administrator, and the outside attorneys. And so I just encourage you, after you put this all to rest tonight, that maybe you reach out and actually see what the other side of the story is. Nothing's going to change now, and it's a little too late for everything. But I just want to say for everyone involved, and I'm talking both sides, the officers and the people that have accused them, I'm hoping that we can continue to pray for everyone, and I hope this for the safety and the future of our city. Thank you for letting me talk.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and members of the community. My name is Brian Ty. I've been serving as interim chief of police alongside Captain Mike Bauer. Together, we've been overseeing the operation of the police department during this transitional period. I'd like to take this opportunity to update you on the progress we've made over the past 4 months and share insight into the state of the department and the community. When we began this intern period, one of our top priorities was addressing the staffing challenge. I'm pleased to report significant progress. We successfully advertised for part-time officers and received a positive response. Currently, we have 7 part-time officers, many of whom hail from surrounding counties, including Madison County. Several of them have prior experience working with our department, so that's come in very handy. In addition to these part-time officers, we've made 2 recent hires, a community service officer who's expressed interest in becoming a police officer, and 1 certified officer that started last Monday. For full-time positions, the interest has been particularly encouraging. We received over a dozen applications, including 3 certified officers and others who are looking to return to the department or community. One of our department's core priorities is trying to build a strong community engagement. Over the past few months, we've made substantial progress in this area. through positive interactions with residents at local events, which have allowed us to build trust and rapport. Active use of social media to share updates, promote transparency, and engage directly with the community. These efforts have been met with overwhelming positive feedback. I want to emphasize the positive momentum within the department. Officers are showing enthusiasm about coming to work, feeling appreciated and valued, a vital step in building a cohesive and committed team. However, while we've made strides, the department remains in a state of limbo. It's crucial to establish a formal structure and leadership framework to ensure continuity and stability. Without this finalized, our ability to move forward is limited. I feel the staff really wants this to be done and move on. I feel like we're in a marathon and we've run 26 miles with a quarter mile to go, and I don't know how much is left in the tank. It will help. To continue moving forward, we need this settlement to pass. It will help resolve outstanding issues and allow us to focus on building a stronger and united department. I'd like to thank all of you for your continued support and understanding during this time. Progress we've made is a reflection of not just the department dedication, but also the trust and investment from this community. I'm confident that with your guidance, we can formalize the leadership and operational structure needed to keep this positive momentum going. We're ready to move forward and serve this community to the best of our abilities.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. I'm Officer Vondereau with Norfolk Police Department. I'm coming up here to just speak on the culture in the department and where things are today. Not speaking on anything in the past or anything of that. Today, I know the culture is strong, it's moving forward positively, and we've had great growths on commitment to this department in this city with the officers that we have. Excuse me. And I know I've talked to a lot of officers, and I'm sure there's going to be some others that will come up and talk as well, along with maybe some other employees. But I've talked to a lot of officers. This is emotionally draining for everybody involved, including the officers and the department. We've gone the distance on trying to maintain things running and moving forward, and we need this to go through foreclosure for everybody. That way we can put our best foot forward and focus on what we do best is public safety. So we don't have this running in the back of our minds while we're at work, while we're at home, consuming our time from our families and from our job, so that we can effectively grow as a department and properly serve this community and do what they deserve. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, I am here tonight on a more personal level. My husband is Captain Chad Ryman. I want to make it clear I have not been asked by anyone to speak, and these are only my thoughts and words. Imagine dedicating a combined 81 years to the community you have wholeheartedly protected and served, received numerous awards working through the ranks, willing to take on a new role, each one coming with more responsibilities, to one day being blindsided, called into a meeting with the city administrator and the HR director to be told you are being placed on administrative leave, with no explanation of what or whom the allegations stem, being told that yes, we indeed can conduct an investigation, but no matter what the outcome, you will not be welcome back here. So who started all this? Is it our former mayor? Maybe it's some of you sitting up here on the council. Maybe it's you, Andy, our city administrator, who was part of their promotion just 5 years ago. Maybe you, Jessica, our HR director, hired less than a year ago. It has to make one wonder, was this all started for personal gain? Was someone given marching orders to dig things up in an attempt to justify a change in leadership? These are all things I have thought about over the last 4 months, things that have kept me up at night. For these men, it's hard to defend allegations when the only information you've been given is an anonymous article in the paper, which, as far as I'm concerned, has no merit. If there truly are legit allegations, isn't it the job of human resources to remain unbiased, reach out to all parties, listen to all sides, gather factual information, and proceed from there? Well, none of that has been done. If there was solid evidence of misconduct, why would the cards not have just been laid on the table? Were these accusations brought to HR, or did the city administration go looking for them? Sure, they conducted investigations that appeared to be hand-picked people using an outside source to merely make it look like they did something. It is my belief, in order to get this information, administration made promises to people willing to talk that they now can't keep. Your names will never be brought up. The investigation showed little to no wrongdoing. Maybe the anger, uprising, and certainly in the investigation has been directed at the wrong people. As a public servant in Norfolk, you are granted civil service protection. To go down that path is a gamble. It's a roll of the dice. Will they truly do what is right and listen to the evidence, or do they most often side with city administration? After all, they are the ones that appoint them. Attorney fees add up quickly as an individual going up against a city with an unlimited budget. By taking the risk and going to civil service, would we finally have names, dates, and some specific allegations? Who knows, as nothing has been right and according to process thus far. Best case scenario, they get their jobs back. But how could they trust the city officials who are supposed to be supporting the force but instead tearing it apart? At some point, you have to decide, is the prize worth the fight and at what cost? We talk about police shortages and the culture within. What kind of culture has this created? Of course, we can increase social media with community interaction, and it looks great from an HR standpoint. But I believe this is contrary to what is really going on. Sure, there are a few that are hanging their heads high. What kind of advancement will this make for me? I caution you, be careful what you wish for. The higher you go, the bigger the target is on your back. I have heard for the most part, the culture that's been created is one where no one knows who to trust or who will be next. As for Captain Ryman, Lieutenant Bauermeister, and Chief Miller, even though their lives have been turned upside down and it is hard to see how anything good can come from this, I believe God has a bigger plan. They may not understand it now, as this has been devastating for them and their families, but I am confident they will find their worth, and the worth the city administration has given total disregard. Unfortunately, in the end, the biggest losers in all of this is the city of Norfolk and the community they have protected. Thank you.
Would you mind stating your name just real, sorry, we didn't get it for the
Tracy
record.
Ryman.
Thank you, Tracy.
My name is Sharon Voigt, and I wasn't going to speak tonight, so I have no notes. But I would just like to congratulate the Officer Ty that has turned things around in 4 months and made everything better that's been a problem for the last 30 years. That is quite a statement. And I know you told them you are not welcome back here, no matter how this turns out. And I heard you, do you know who you walked out with at first meeting when they had the first meeting? Do you know who you walked out of here with? I don't. Well, it hasn't been that long ago.
Tell me.
This one, with HR. And I heard you say, oh, we will get them. We just have to go through the process.
That's not true.
That is
a
true,
lie.
100%.
That is a lie.
That is true.
As a community, we'll get through this. That is 100%.
Oh, as a community? No.
Absolutely.
No, not. And she said, yes, I realize there's a process. And like I said, it's amazing to me.
But it's stressful on all of us. Don't you think that as a community, we want to get through this? I'm not anti-police. I'm not
I
anti,
would
Dawn.
hope not, because
Absolutely
I think
not.
they helped you remove people from in front of your building that you didn't
Let's
want.
try to keep it.
I just want to tell you, I'm not
direct.
anti-police.
Hold on, just stop just 1 second. Let's try to keep it direct to the point.
All right,
I don't wanna
this is
see-
to the point. I
Thank
want to congratulate Ty. That's the reason I come up here. He has fixed everything in 4 months that has been wrong for the last 40 years. And that's when my son was walking the street. He wasn't in any position to hire anybody, fire anybody. You may not like the personality. That doesn't mean they didn't do their job. Chief Miller, 36 years. 36 years, and now he cannot be chief anymore? Captain, 27 years. No. Get rid of them. We're going to fix this department. Josh Bauermeister, same thing, 20-some years. Those three together have not done as much as some of the people that are still in the force that are wrong. They did things so much more wrong than those three officers have. And I don't care how you decide this. They have spent their money in Norfolk. They have bought houses in Norfolk. They pay their taxes in Norfolk. Their kids go to school in Norfolk, and we're going to get rid of them. That's all I have to say. Oh, I do have one more question. Can I?
Sure.
Why couldn't they have any names of who said what? Even if it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 2 days ago. Why couldn't they have names?
You answer that, Andy?
Did you go to them and say, if you tell us what we won't put your names down?
For the record, I have not spoken to anybody that spoke as part of any investigation, and I don't even have any list of any names.
Do you, Jessica? Well, where did the complaints come from?
Is it okay if I speak up there?
I don't know.
Just to answer your question, so in our policy manual, employees have the right to go to HR. If there's a complaint, I have a responsibility. It doesn't mean anybody is falsely accused. You have to objectively look into the situation, and due to the complex nature and it's a high profile situation, it's leadership that's been in there many years. Objectively, it's typically helpful to have outside counsel to be neutral, non-biased, and so we had a separate outside counsel, Kate Dittrich, who's from a different firm, investigate this on her own with anonymous information. She selected the people she interviewed. We don't have her here today, but that was the process. So with that information, our attorneys representing the city through Baird Home, they actually worked with the attorneys representing the three on leave. So we did collaborate with them. I know it's difficult for people in this room to understand all the information, but we are held to confidentiality and protecting the rights of everybody, including the three on leave.
Then how come their names were put in the paper?
So there may have been an article that was not provided by the city. We don't have control over that. Freedom of speech exists. And so I want to explain that these settlement agreements actually, they provide closure for everybody involved. I know it seems unfair to some how we arrived at this decision, but if you vote no tonight, what will happen is they have to go back to the drawing board and see if they're interested in renegotiating settlements, or it could go down the civil service process. I am on the commission. At that point, they can go down there.
You're on civil service?
I am a part of that as a secretary, so I would be involved in those.
So it would be wise for them not to go to civil service then.
That's their rights. Their
Right,
rights.
I mean, if you're sitting on the board, it
Well,
would be good for them.
I
not
think
to
we
go to
can't, let's,
civil
let's,
service.
Yeah.
Jessica, thanks for coming up and speaking. In order to be respectful for all involved, let's try to keep this to the point and to direct, because I don't think we're helping anybody with
Well, we're probably not.
Right.
But if you know what these families have been through, any of you, and like they say, when you point your finger at someone, you have 3 pointing back at yourself. So,
Right, thank you.
I just want to add for the record, the Civil Service Act is what we're following. If this is voted down, we have to go down that path. And if we do, then we're prepared to go that direction. However, there's a process to that, and we haven't even reached that point yet.
Right.
This is informal resolution.
At this point, can you state who else is on that Civil Service Committee?
So it's Brad Brooks, who's in the room tonight, Mike Joy, he was a previous firefighter, and then we have Susie Hansen, that was previously in law enforcement with these 3 individuals.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to add one comment, just for my own benefit, and I think for the benefit of the staff. It's a statement. I can shoulder a lot. I can have a lot directed at me, and I'll take it. But I want to say that the staff here with the City of Norfolk and our outside counsel as well did a tremendous job and handled this whole matter professionally, objectively, and fairly. And I'm not going to tolerate anybody saying anything different. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
My name is Susan Westerhouse, and I am a police officer with the Norfolk Police Division. We want to move forward. We want to heal, and we are tired. Voting to approve these settlements would allow us to do that. It would allow us to move forward. It would allow all parties involved to move forward. Voting against this would only inflict more unrest and more turmoil, on the officers still working to serve the community. I want to thank you for your time and for your consideration, and I would say that supporting a vote to move forward with settlements would give us some direction. It would give us an idea that there is potentially an end in sight to being suspended in a state of limbo where we don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. We don't know who's going to walk out the door, who's going to walk in the door. We need something. We need some sort of concrete path. And I ask you for that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
My name is Josie Paulson. I am a dispatcher at the Norfolk Police Division. I'm just here tonight to show my support in the passing of this agreement. While I sympathize with the public in regards to their frustration with the entire situation and the payout, I hope that they ultimately understand that this is for the best. The division is ready to move forward, and the changes that have already been implemented has made our work environment drastically better, which in turn helps us serve the community. At this point, the settlement agreement would put an end to this whole situation and allow the city, the PD, and the entire community to be able to move forward and do better. That's all I have.
Thank you.
My name is Dylan Veith. I've been an officer with the Norfolk Police Department for 3.5 years now. To say the least, within the last, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months, my foot's been out the door. I've had other opportunities come up. I've been looking at employment elsewhere. But in the last 3 to 4 months of Chief Ty and the various different positions in the city, the work they've done has changed my mind, and I've made the decision to stay here. And I feel like that speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ben McBride. I'm a sergeant with the Norfolk Police Division, currently acting as a lieutenant. It'll be 30 years that I've been employed here at the Norfolk Police Division this summer. All my law enforcement career has been here. We've had a lot of officers talk about healing and moving forward, so I'm not going to touch base on that. I guess I will say I'd like to see the settlement go forward, not only for us, I'd like to see it for Chief Miller's family, Captain Ryman's family, Lieutenant Bauermeister's family. They need to move forward, get on with their lives. And I know this is a tough position for you on the council. I know there's been a lot of phone calls made to you, people not understanding or being upset with this dollar amount, and I get it. It's a lot of money. But I will also say, it's very admirable if you want to vote, the way you're, if you have a lot of constituents say, hey, we need to do this, and it's very admirable for you to want to vote in the way that your constituents want you to vote. But there are times where you're put in a position, I just wanted to remind you, there's times you're put in your position with the trust of the constituents, that there's going to be times you're going to know a lot more information than they do. You know a lot more information on this than we as police officers do. We don't know the results of the investigation. We don't know how all this played out. But you do, okay? And you know how things need to go. And sometimes it stings to make a tough decision and make a lot of people unhappy. Welcome to the world of being a police officer. Okay, pretty common in our line of work. So I guess more than I just wanted to let you know. Just kind of remind you that sometimes you have to go with what's right versus what necessarily most of the public wants, because you've got more information on this matter than what your constituents ever will have. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gannon Ty, and I'm with the Norfolk Police Division. Most of what I have wrote up has been talked about already, but I'll still read it anyways. The Norfolk Police Division is making great progress. Morale at the police station is improving, and officers are excited to come to work. And we're working hard to create a good working environment for everyone. Staffing is getting stronger, and we're committed to keeping this momentum going. To continue moving forward, we need the settlement to pass. It will help resolve outstanding issues and allow us to focus on building a stronger, united department. I urge you to support this resolution. It's an important step for our officers, our department, and our whole community. I also would like to thank the members of the City Council for your guys' overwhelming support of the police department during these past few months. Thank you.
Thank you.
Connie Leffers, and I've worked in law enforcement in this area for over 16 years. And you guys have an awesome police department, and I understand they need the stability, and it probably is best to go with the settlement. But I do think one thing does need to be brought up is the message we're sending to the other officers. We're paying out $800,000, but I guarantee the raises are not anywhere comparable to that. I'm not sure why we're allowing officers to have 4 months of paid vacation and then also get a $500,000 settlement when that could be used to improve the entire department instead of just one person or 2 people.
Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, my name has been invoked. I was planning on coming up and talking to you anyway. Everybody's job has been tough, but at the end of the day, it's like everything else. A decision is made. Somebody's gonna lose or think they lost, somebody's gonna win. This community can't go forward if we don't get together and pull together and make Norfolk a better community. I mean, this, whatever, and I haven't read any of the newspaper articles. I did see an article on a Lincoln TV station about this. It's ridiculous. We've got to pull together and move Norfolk forward. That's my speech.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward?
Yeah, my name is Steve Seahigh. One thing I have not heard tonight yet, and I don't know if you can divulge this information or not, but the amount of money that's being paid out, how did you come to that amount? Thank you.
Thank you. Is that a question we can entertain?
So, as I kind of went over in my introductory statement, this was all handled through a series of negotiations that took place with a third-party counsel that the city had retained to do this. So that's all part of the settlement negotiations, and this is where we landed. So I can't point to a certain, I can't provide a concrete answer to that. That all happened with the negotiations with the different parties. And it was agreed upon. So the parties that we have for the agreements on tonight's agenda have all already agreed to these settlement agreements.
Anyone else like to speak on this? I think it would be important to maybe come up again, Jessica, if you have a minute, and then state the process and the steps that if follows, what the next step would be, considering if this doesn't pass, what would happen, how this all works out with litigation and whatnot.
Right, so if this doesn't pass tonight, you vote individually on all 3 separately, so keep that in mind. If it doesn't pass on one or all, whatever it is, it will go down, we'll return back to our attorneys, they'll talk with their counsel. There'll be kind of a few weeks waiting period on what they want to do. since they're all working together. And then there will be a short timeline on whether or not they even want to change the terms of the contract or try to renegotiate. So with that being said, the city would be required to take action, whether it's to reinstate their employment or take action on them in terms of dismissal, those types of things. And that's in the hands of our city administrator at that point. So whenever that action takes place, if it goes down that path, then they have the right to appeal that decision through our Civil Service Commission. So they have 10 days to decide if they want to appeal, and then we'll have to see where it goes from there. And this is all hypothetical. It's not what's going to happen, but it does hinge on your vote tonight. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Jessica. Jessica, sorry.
Nope, you're good.
There was one, I guess, topic brought up that maybe you can or cannot hit on. But it talked about their settlement agreement, which Andy hit on a little bit, but also their sick leave and vacation amounts.
So
Those, maybe you can hit on those a little bit for us.
So those are what the city provides. It's standard, whether you're let go, whether you're choosing to leave, that's in our protocols. So whether they decided to leave without settlement, we would be required to do that. Any other questions?
My other one's gonna be for Andy I'm sure there's a question that hasn't been asked of how these settlements, if they were passed, are paid for, where that funds come from, and how that's taken care of.
So if you remember,
I'm good, Jessica.
sure, sorry. So if you remember, for the last several years, the city council has been working to make sure that we have an adequate fund balance. And so this is one of those instances where you can show where things like this are needed as far as a policy set by the city to meet that finance officer's recommended balance. Because you're gonna have good years, you're gonna have bad years. You're gonna have years where unexpected expenses come up. You're gonna have years where emergencies come up. You're gonna have years where you have revenue that is down. You're gonna have years where revenue is up. And so essentially, to answer your question, this will come out of fund balance, is where this will be paid from. But I will also add that this is why you have fund balance, and this is why the city has worked hard to get a fund balance like this, is so for when things like this do come up. We never know when that will happen. It may never happen. But that's why we have best practice for that, so in the event it does come up, we have that available to us to do that. So this is fund balance, Corey.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
So, Jessica, would they, if this is voted down, then would they go through the process of Civil Service Commission?
So
Possibly.
it depends. If our attorney consults their attorneys, they have a choice to make in a very short timeline if they choose to try to settle for nothing. I can't tell you what's going to happen if you vote no, but it hinges on what our attorney and their attorneys would like to do. But the timeline is much shorter at that point, that if they don't want to and they want these agreements and these prices to stick, we have a decision to make. They're on a paid administrative leave right now, so we'd have to make a decision on what we're going to do with their employment. We can't continue them to be on administrative leave. So to follow up with that, again, this is all hypothetical. If that happens, we make a decision. The city administrator has that right in our policy based on the information we have available. Then they would receive that. They have 10 days to appeal that decision, whatever it is, with our Civil Service Commission. And then from there, the Civil Service Commission has 10 days to investigate that decision, how we got there, and have a public trial before anyone in the public. So that's how that would go.
You maybe don't know this, but is that the way they want to go? Does officers want to go through civil service? Have these,
Like our PD officers?
the ones that are on leave, do they
I
want to
don't,
go through that process?
I don't know that answer.
Okay. Well, it sounds like some of them from their family members that they have.
I can't speak for them right now.
Okay.
Jessica, going to Public Service Commission, is that other people that of outside of that maybe gave testimony would also be brought into and exposed, is that correct as well?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
No, that's fine. Those that have already spoken against these officers, will they be exposed? Will their names be exposed? And
No, so the attorney that investigated this, it's privileged information. She actually destroyed the list of names to maintain anonymity of those that she talked to. So if we go down a more formal process through civil service investigation, those individuals that would like their name on their record in terms of complaints will have to decide at that point if they would like to come forward.
Okay.
So right now, it's anonymous. Kate Dittrich, the attorney that did that preliminary investigation, it's privileged with her. She's not here tonight, and she wouldn't be able to speak on that or give details.
okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'll just say, since a citizen made a comment against me, that this council has always worked well with Don and Ryman when it comes to the PD or the homeless. The council didn't create this problem, but it's fell at our desk to fix it. We're all pro PD up here. None of us want to see anyone hurt, any families hurt. We're all here to support the PD in any way and do what's best for the people in our community. And nothing that the council has ever done would go against any of those morals and values. So I just want to make that known.
I'm actually going to follow that up, and I would echo those statements, Justin. I mean, our support is always behind the officers, the department. It's tough. We'd like to see closure on this, and yet, on the same breath, we take into consideration what our constituents are concerned about with the settlement amounts. So that's the debate that kind of keeps going through my head at times, is what's the right decision? Is it the safety of our community, or is it the financial concern that our community might have to bear in this situation? So I don't know. I think it's one where we've heard a lot of support from the police department this evening. I know it's not everyone that's in that department, but I do think it is it's an example of maybe the feelings there. If not, I would think we would have gotten a few to speak against it. So, with that said, I guess I want to show support for the police in their request to put this behind them, and the same time trying to balance that financial obligation that we may be forced to have to deal with. So, thank you.
Let me ask the question. Well, we've been talking about this in Frank, you brought up the financial obligation. So the civil suit part of this, if it went to a civil suit, if something changed and it went to civil suit, what would be that obligation for our community at that point in time? Financially? I mean, what's your best scenario?
So if an issue were to come out of this where there's some type of action that would be taken hypothetically, and then we have to go through litigation, we have to go through that. I mean, I think the first thing that I think Jessica mentioned was, you know, the state law, the first step is, if there would ever in fact be disciplinary action taken, would go to Civil Service Commission. And so at that point, then we would have we'd continue working with our outside counsel to help navigate us through that. And then obviously all parties involved in that would also have their legal expenses as well, but the city would have legal expenses. We would have to go through that. I don't know how long that could take. I know there's timeframes, and by the time, you know, they have to get notice and do an investigation, but hypothetically, it could take a while. It could be quite costly. You know, from that point on, it's unknown, depending on what action were to ever be taken and if there's litigation involved. I mean, really, I can't answer that question. I mean, there's really no way to answer that, Mayor, and I think that's, you know, when I said in the statement at the beginning, it's complex with unknown outcomes, and I think that is the best way that I can answer that for you.
Something that I guess I want to make sure gets put out there to all of our constituents and our police department is that no matter what the outcome of this, and I'm going to deal with the hypothetical because it's went through my mind many times today, is that hypothetical is that whatever happens, it goes to and it would go to the Civil Service Commission. Whatever happens there can be appealed to district court. Whatever happens there can be appealed to appellate court. What happens there can be chosen to be heard or not heard by our state Supreme Court. So our decision tonight is more than just a dollar amount or what is right or wrong for our police department, what is right or wrong for our 3 men who are under scrutiny. Is the bottom line is we are talking this could drag to 12 to 18 months, be heard all the way up to the state Supreme Court, and cost the city, and dealing from strictly a cost standpoint, my estimation with a lot of talking to a lot of people is somewhere in the neighborhood of $980,000 if it would go all the way to the state Supreme Court, where we would have to retain counsel to get all the way up there. We don't know. So I wanted to make sure the public knew that and understood that is an opinion done with a lot of research, but that particular avenue is an avenue that could happen, and we as city councilmen have to be prepared for the fact that if we think that these people are innocent, guilty, whatever that matter might be, that we are making a decision to spend $1 million. I mean, that's ultimately, this could cost us $1 million if we approve to take the agreements, or if we don't approve, take the agreements and go a different route, if that's what we choose, or a third way to go. And there's 3 choices that are really in front of us tonight. So I don't think that in terms of a cost standpoint that cost is the only thing that we need to be considering up here at the council, because I think no matter what our choices, ultimately it's going to cost the city $1 million to see this through to the end, if we so choose to make those decisions. Those are decisions we'll make along the way, but it's a hefty price tag for our city. And please, to the public, viewing public, listening public, everyone who gets published and hears this, please know that we're making $1 million decision up here tonight. We're not just making it is a right or wrong decision, but the dollar amount is being considered, and it has weighed heavy on me. It has weighed heavy on me for the last week. So, thanks.
Yes.
When I worked in law enforcement, I was a supervisor. I had one of my staff come to me with a complaint of sexual harassment to another officer. I took that to my supervisor, and within 2 years, the workplace was miserable. I left. We also have to look at the dollar amount versus if this was your daughter being harassed, would you want this to go to court? And there's a whistleblower law. It don't matter who made the complaint. It was valid to them. I think we need to also look at what are we sending the message? Money is more important than a human life.
right.
Well, I was just gonna talk a little bit, and I don't have anything prepared. I mean, we're in a decision that, maybe a little bit contrary to what Jeff was saying. There's no right decision, right? Either way we make a decision, it affects lives. Every one of them, every one of us already has, right? Our phones have blown up, our emails have blown up. We sat in meetings we don't want to be a part of. I want zero part of it. So do they. So do you, right? So do the accused. They're on administrative leave. We have that in front of us and that only. And what was published in a paper by whatever sources are strictly that. And the problem we have right now in front of us is rumors and possible inaccurate information ran rapid amongst the city. And I think, and I'll say it right now, I'll say it out loud, and all of us involved, is we could have done better at providing information on what this whole process looks like and how it's done, right? Not that we have to disclose anything, but as Jessica informed us, what this process looks like on a no vote, on a yes vote, or what this looks like for officers throughout this whole process, or how long it might take, or, you know, obviously we have no idea what a settlement's gonna come to. There's bargaining back and forth or whatever it might be. And I appreciate that that was done externally from our own city attorney, our own city staff, in the way of Barrett Home, our outside attorneys, and in a investigation that was also separate from the attorneys. So if we would have done a better job at explaining this from the very beginning, I think we would have all had a lot better understanding rather than sitting here wondering, how is this council gonna spend $1 million? I'm gonna hold you accountable if you're gonna waste this money or not waste this money or pay these people who have these accusations that we can't talk about. It's tough. If this goes forward as a yes, the contract, as you might read it here, is we are 100% not allowed to talk about anything, ever, ever. You can ask us all we want. If one of us talks about it, shame on us, right? Shame on you. Because I sure as hell don't want to sit in court over something like this, right? None of us do. And it's not a fun, not an enjoyable decision. I don't think any of us know necessarily which way it's going to vote, but we have to live with the consequences one way or another, right? So all of us do. But to that point, we do have to move forward. We do have to come together and be a better community. And it's about time we start doing that. That's it.
Yes.
Can I just say something? I'm John Seahigh, I'm the brother of the...
Just go ahead and come on up, John.
I'm just gonna tell you, I've owned a business in this town for 47 years. And these things come up. They come up. I worked with professionals for almost 50 years now, and they come up, even amongst professionals. And you gotta trust the process. There was a process laid down, they followed it. It's not good for anybody, things happen. But we gotta move forward, just like Corey said. You had officers come in and say they want to put closure on this. You don't know how important that is to the employees of the force. Put closure on this thing completely and move on. Because it'll be passed over in a couple months, it'll settle down, these guys will get back to work. And I don't know about you, you can't place a price on the protection these guys give us with what's going on in the world. You can't place a price on it, I don't care what it is. We gotta trust it, do our best with it, and move on. And trust these guys are gonna do the right thing, and we gotta trust our elected officials that they're gonna do the right thing. We have to move on. That's the way business works. This is a business. And it's a tough business. We're in tough times right now. We're facing a lot of things. You hear about it on TV, you hear about it on the radio, and the newspapers. It's time to let these guys feel comfortable and go out to work. Thank you, guys.
Anyone else?
Mayor, council members. Waylon Hepner here. I guess something I haven't heard all night, besides from Corey a second, goes accountability. I go in a neighbor's house, I kick a hornet's nest. I knock on their door, I take off running. They come outside, several people get stung. Who's accountable for that? This process all got started somewhere along the line. I understand there's a list of names that's been thrown in the garbage. They were discarded.
It's anonymous.
But was referred to as thrown in the garbage, I guess. Accountability. City of Norfolk, all of us are accountable for $800 and some thousand. Where's the accountability of, from what I hear, 81 years of service from the police officers? That's a long time. I've known every one of them officers well. They've all been respectful as far as I know. Haven't heard nothing negative about them today. So obviously it sounds to me and everybody else, they were probably in the right. Somebody went up and got this ball going. Accountable. Somebody should be held accountable. The city's Norfolk's held accountable for that. I just think accountability goes a long ways, just besides the taxpayers of the city of Norfolk. And with that, I'll finish. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Anyone else like to talk? Okay.
I guess I'm just going to say for the record that hearing a lot of the testimony tonight really has left a emotion in my heart. And I feel sorry for everybody who's dealt with this on any side of the rainbow here. It's very tough. But the decision I make today is going to be one I'll have to live with and go to sleep with tonight. And I didn't sleep last night, so I just want you to know I'm thinking of y'all.
And I would definitely echo that. This has been a tremendously stressful time for elected officials, and not to mention, it's been stressful for us, but obviously been a lot more stressful for the families involved and the police officers involved. And this is something that happens generationally. This doesn't happen all the time, but it happened right now, and so we're dealing with it. And it's frustrating. Waylon, your comments resonate, and everybody else's comments out here tonight really resonate and weigh extremely heavy on everyone up here. It's been not something I would like to see anybody have to go through, no matter what part of the process you're on. It's just not a fun thing to be part of. And that's unfortunate, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the sun's gonna come up tomorrow, and we're gonna wake up, and we're gonna look at that sunrise, and hopefully we can put our lives back together, move forward, and keep trying to build this community in the right way. So regardless of the decision tonight, the sun will still come up tomorrow, and we'll still be Norfolk, Nebraska. But we do need to work on, as a community, building bridges amongst ourselves and building unity, and I don't know how that looks like moving forward, but this right here is one of our lower moments, and we're gonna have to fight through it and move through it, so.
I'll just say one more thing. As a council, as far as the time I'm on council, I think we're committed towards making sure this does not happen again, that we don't get ourselves in this situation ever again, and that we remember what got us here, and we protect all the families involved. That's even the officers at home. Everyone needs to be protected in our community. We're all here to make our community a better place. So we need to remember this and make sure there's safeguards in place to not allow this to happen again.
All right, any other public input? If not, I'm gonna ask for the vote if we have not had any more if we don't have any more public input. All right, please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, Granquist, Arns, Jensen, Langy, Webb, Hildebrand, Beckman, abstaining, McCarthy. Motion carries.
All right, on to item number 27.
Your Honor, due to a family member in the Norfolk PD, I'll be abstaining again.
I'll make a motion for consideration of agreement.
Second.
I didn't read it yet. I got interrupted. Sorry, I gotta read through here. This is item number 27. Need a motion, consideration of agreement with the City of Norfolk, Chad Ryman, for Ryman's resignation of his position as police captain. So now I need a first and a second, please. Oh, we do? Okay, all right. Now we move to discussion. Any discussion? Any public input? All right, seeing none, please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, Granquist, Arns, Jensen, Langy, Webb, Hildebrand, Beckman, abstaining, McCarthy. Motion carries.
All right, on to item number 28, consideration of agreement between the City of Norfolk and Josh Bauermeister for Bauermeister's resignation of his position as police lieutenant.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Your Honor, due to a family member in the PD, I will again be abstaining.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any additional public input? All right, seeing none, please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, Granquist, Arns, Jensen, Langy, Webb, Hildebrand, Beckman, abstaining, McCarthy. Motion carries.
All right, we're moving on to public comment period. I think we've had a lot of comment tonight already, but we are on to this portion of the agenda. So if you have some comments that you want to bring forward, now would be the time. And before we start public, I just want to, again, I hope we can now bring some healing to our community after this tonight.
Jim McKenzie. When I ran for mayor, I ran on a campaign of transparency and openness and embracing public input. That's what this public speaking session is. It's public comment period. The City of Norfolk only allows public input on any topic of the choosing of the citizen one time every 3 months. That's a long time for a citizen to have to wait before they can address this body and bring their concerns forward in an open and public manner. The Nebraska legislature recently passed a law that requires all public entities that are subject to the Open Meetings Act offer a public comment period at every meeting. Norfolk has refused to comply with this. I'm assuming that the city is going to try and interpret that law differently than what was the intent of the legislature when they passed it. I read the committee discussion on it, and it was to have public comment on any topic. And we're not doing that at every meeting. We're doing it once every 3 months. I don't understand why we would not want to hear from all of the citizens as a full body in an open public meeting at every meeting. It doesn't make sense to me to deny that right to our citizens. I think we need to embrace state law. We talk about healing and togetherness. What better way to do that than listening to our constituents and hearing from them and giving them that opportunity to speak like I am today at every public meeting? I ask you to reconsider that. Thank you.
Jim, just before you take off, this is something I've kind of been looking into also. And some communities, what they do is they do the open public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and they do that as more of a gesture of convenience for the public, so they don't necessarily have to sit through the entire meeting if they've got some on their mind. Would you think that would be something to consider if we, as we move forward with this item?
Absolutely. It doesn't make any difference to me whether it's the beginning or the end of the meeting. I just think it needs to happen at every meeting.
All right. We're definitely going to be discussing and getting this resolved, because you're right, we need to do it more often, so.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else? Anyone else? We are adjourned.